Good morning. Well, gosh, that was a very special introduction, a whole video. So my name is James Sofranko. Thank you, Emily, for having me here, and thank you all for being here. I am new to Two Hands Raised, to Creative Mornings GR. I am new to GR. So I just moved here with my wife, Cindy, and our two kids to Grand Rapids from San Francisco. So we are definitely experiencing a restart. How do we drive in this weather, for instance? So yeah, this is a theme that I think can resonate with me. As a dancer, you're kind of like a professional athlete, or you could say that you are a professional athlete without the same salary, but you do have a finite window of time, of opportunity from which to perform. And there's always that ending looming in the distance. When you're 20, you don't really think about it so much, but the older you get, the more you go, okay, what am I going to do when I can't do this anymore? And your body starts to hurt a little bit more, and you start to think about the future. So yeah, we have to be prepared for that, and dancers were forced with that. There's even we've created an organization called Career Transition for Dancers, and I'm sure there's something for NFL players too. But there's this idea that it's not easy. It's not easy to start again and to reinvent yourself. For me, I've been able to put some fingers out while I was still a dancer into different ideas and skill sets, and trying to explore what I can do and what feels good to me. And it has led me here to become an artistic director of a company. So in a way, I'm not completely restarting. I'm not starting a brand new career. Some dancers do that. But I've kind of made this an evolution. So my restart involves taking everything that I've used before. I'm not dancing anymore. I'm not performing on the stage, except for right now. I have to use those experiences and channel them into something new. And it doesn't mean that I have to start from the bottom again. I think all of those other experiences that I've had as a dancer, all the teachers that I've had have helped me become the person that I am, and helps my skill sets, and that has gotten me to this point. So I thank you to the Grand Rapids Ballet for believing in me, and here I am in my first season. So we just had our first performance in October, and this whole season through May is my first curated season, and hopefully you guys will come and see it and tell me what you think. So I guess we will start at the beginning. I am a dancer, so we're not used to talking so much, just FYI. It's a very silent art form, except for the music. So bear with me if I'm talking too much or too little. Hopefully Emily will make motions at me. But there will be time for some Q&A, and I'll show a couple more videos too, because what's to talk about dance without some dance, right? I could do a little bit for you, but I don't know if that's happening right now. So this is a shot of me in the company. So I'm going from being one of the many company members of San Francisco Ballet, which San Francisco Ballet is an 80-member troupe, and we're here about 37. So all of a sudden I'm one of many to the top dog, basically, the guy who's in charge of all these people. So it is quite a shift for me mentally. I'm still at an age where I could be dancing, so I kind of want to be chummy and friendly and be a part of that group, but on the other hand, I have to take a step back and think about how do I want to present myself to these dancers, how do I want to lead them and inspire them, and it's different than being their friend. So I want to be friendly, but of course. But I'm not going to go out at night necessarily and do the things that I did with my colleagues at San Francisco Ballet. So it's a little bit unknown, this territory that I'm in, but it's exciting at the same time. I'm supercharged about what I can do here in Grand Rapids with this organization. This company has shown a lot of promise over the last 10 years or so. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary, so the company has been around for a long time. But as a professional company at this level, I think it's only recently come into its own, and I feel like there's still a lot of room for growth, which is what inspired me to come here from San Francisco. Because of course you're like, okay, so people ask me, why are you moving to Michigan? Well, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I guess we should maybe go to the next slide, Emily. Okay, so this is just me as a young boy at the bar. So B-A-R-R-E, French, yes. Okay, not the bar. So yeah, I'll just be kind of explaining my story, and that's how I think I will impart the restart theme. I think that's just the best way to kind of chronologically go through it here. So this is, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, so I'm from the Midwest anyway. So it wasn't too much of a problem for me coming back to the Midwest, although my wife Cindy's from Southern California, so it took a little bit more convincing there. We'll see how the winter goes. Although the winter in Cincinnati is not quite as snowy as it has been here already. It's not even Thanksgiving yet, but our kids are excited. So I guess I want to ask, who knows anything about ballet? Who has taken ballet before? Oh wow, that's great. A lot of people. Who has been to the Grand Rapids Ballet before? Spectacular, great. Okay, so Emily really wanted me to do this. So everyone's gonna stand up and we're gonna do a little ballet exercise just to start. Thank you for being willing. Just don't spill your coffee if you can. If you can handle it. Okay, I don't have one of those Britney Spears microphones, but so ballet, we start at the bar. Just pretend we have a bar, but you stand with your toes facing straight front, and then you open them like that. That's called first position. So we always have turnout in ballet. So this came from the courts of France, where we were very presentational. So this is where the turnout comes from. It's all about being courteous and subjecting yourself to the king and queen, whoever's in the hierarchy in the front of the room. So this is first position. We'll have our arms low like this, rounded. And Emily and I were doing our hands earlier. So we're not going to do spatula hands. Nuh-uh. We're not going to do monster claws, right? You can kind of just shake them out. And then hit kind of like a mannequin pose a little bit, where you've got the first finger separate from the other three a little bit, and your thumb not out like that, just in there. And nice round elbows, so a nice oval from your shoulders. And that's very good right there. Yeah. Good. All right, so now we'll do a demi-plie. Bend your knees go straight over the toes, and straight up. That's a demi-plie. One more, 2 demi-plies. And up, and then we can, maybe let's do your right leg to the side. I'm gonna mirror you, and then put it down. And now this is second position. You might hit your neighbor, but let's just have it. So now we'll do a position here. And straight. Knees straight over, you don't want knees to go in, right? You'll hurt yourself. So just straight over the toes, and up. Good, okay, now we're gonna go to third position, which is heel right in front of the middle of your other foot there, and still turned out like that. Okay, let's keep the arms here for now. And good hands. No monster claws. Demi-plie 1, and up. Demi-plie 1, and up. Good. And then we're gonna go tendu. We're gonna go fourth position. So take the opposite arm from the leg that's front. Here we go. Very nice. A little longer there. Good. So you're not, you're kind of framing your head. You're not going to lose your neck though. Your neck stays nice and long, relaxed. There we go. And demi-plie 1, and up. Demi-plie 1, and up. And finally, we'll go to the fifth position. Arms high. So this is the toe and heel meet, and the other toe and heel meets like that. Okay? And you don't want to be like this either, right? You try to tuck it under. Tuck all your stuff under there. And belly's in. Yeah, there we go. And arms high. Demi-plie 1, and up. Demi-plie 1, and up. And then, if you would like to, there's probably not a room, and depending on your pants tightness, grand plie all the way down. My pants are not good. And all the way back up. So there's a demi-plie, which is the half, and then there's the grand plie, which is all the way down, and then all the way back up. Okay, give yourselves a round of applause. Satisfied, Emily? Okay, good. Oh yeah, I was supposed to do, so everything in ballet, classical ballet that is, in ballet has evolved past all the French terms, but we still have to learn the French terms and we have to know what they are in order to move past them. And we still do classic ballets, Sleeping Beauty, Swan Lake, and all of those ballets use these terms. So that's tendu, which means to stretch. There's dégagé, which means to disengage, so you release your leg. There's a fondu, which is to melt, you know, fondue. Yeah. There's passe, which is the foot at the knee. And then you get into much better, like tombe, pas de bourrée, glissade, pas de chat. And who knows what chat is in French? Cat, yeah, it's definitely a cat. So there's lots of fun stuff, especially when you're a child learning ballet. So anyway, we started the bar. We didn't have a bar, but you do begin this way as a kid and as a professional, as a child and a grown-up. Everyone begins the same way in the world. So I kind of wanted to tie that into Restart as well, because in a way, even though you may be the ultimate professional prima ballerina at the top ballet company of the world, you still have to consider yourself a student. You're always improving yourself. You always, first thing in the morning, you start at the bar, demi-plié, just like what you guys did. Excuse me. So I think that is, I'm like out of breath, out of shock. I think that is what drives a lot of the perfectionism in ballet, that there's this technique that is so high and ideal, it's not always attainable. You don't ever really quite reach. There's always a little bit more turnout you can do. You can always point your foot a little bit more. You can always have a little bit straighter posture. You can always do another pirouette. You can do more, and you've never quite achieved that level of perfection. And if you think that you have, I think then you've lost that drive. And so you always have to consider yourself a student. So going back to the basics, getting yourself to the bar every, RRE, getting yourself to the bar every day is really important in a dancer's career. And I think that has translated, whether a dancer transitions into a teacher role, or a director, or a choreographer, or a lawyer, or a who knows what, you know, graphic designer, it's still translatable. Those skills, everyone says that I hear, oh yeah, dancers have the best work ethic and the best discipline, because we've had to, and it's instilled in you every morning. You have to do it right. You can't cut corners, otherwise your whole performance will suffer. So getting to the bar every morning is a big deal for us, and frankly, I'm gonna miss it. And now I teach class, so I'm the teacher of the class twice a week for the company here, and then other days of the week I try to take it when I can, just to stay in shape a little bit. Because teaching class and taking class are a little bit different. You know, I'm supposed to walk around and give corrections, and then I'm all of a sudden expected to demonstrate something later on in the class where we were jumping big and traveling across the floor. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not quite warm enough for that. Or I'm getting out of shape. You know, the more I do this, I only retired from the stage in May, so I feel like I've still got it in me, but I have to remember, wait, okay, I'm not quite in shape, otherwise I'll hurt myself. So, yeah, so the discipline of technique, I think, is just super important to what I do, and I think that's a translatable skill to anything, of course. And the choreography, too, is something that I think a lot of people might not realize about dance. Some people go, oh, there's a choreographer to this? Oh, you guys don't just like choose the steps to do yourself? Or, I mean, in some ways, I've had moments in my career where I think to myself or talk to Cindy, like, you know, I get paid to jump around on stage. Like, how weird is that, or how cool is that? You can go either way with that. But it's more than that. There's a whole craft behind it. There's years of technique that have, and centuries basically, that have been handed down. You heard me say in the video, like, ballet is a tradition that can't really be passed down in a book. It can't be written down very well. People have tried, and they do so successfully, but it's really challenging to, first of all, write it down. There's two different notation techniques, and it's very difficult to read it then. And they're still not perfect, because think about how many variations of, like, just what I did right there. How do you write that down? Like, if that's part of the choreography, I mean, good luck to you. That's 8 pages of paper right there. So it's different from music in that sense, where the Mozart score is the same as it was in 1884 or whenever he wrote his symphonies. So Petipa and Balanchine, these people who are masters of choreography, their choreography is kind of like a living art form. And while it's sometimes lamentable, oh, we don't have the exact original that Balanchine or Petipa did, in a way we've influenced it through generations of dancers too, and artists. So I think that's unique and special to dance. So anyway, just thought I'd put that out there. So I began dance at the age of 5 in Cincinnati. I saw Michael Jackson on TV. That's how it started. I wanted to do the moonwalk. My parents put me in a local ballet school, Dolly Dinkle, as we call it, the Dolly Dinkle Ballet School. And of course, I loved the jazz the best, and tap, but ballet was like, ugh, ballet is so hard, it's so structured. As a 5, 6-year-old kid, you just want to run and jump around. I have a 5-year-old now, that's all he wants to do. But he takes ballet here, he does. And it's good for him. And it really became this, like I was saying, it's this unattainable, it's the most challenging. So I got really inspired by it eventually, like, oh wow, and then you see videos of Bershkov and Nureyev and all these people like, oh my gosh, you really can make it exciting, and how do they do that while maintaining the perfect line, the perfect technique? So the challenge was really something for me that brought me closer to ballet in a way, but I still kept my love of like pop music, and I love hip hop dancing, and I love just all forms of expression of dance. And so it's not like I got honed into ballet, but ballet became my focus just because I think ballet is the basis for a lot of other techniques. Once you have ballet in your body, you can use it however you wish. It's harder to go the other way and approach ballet through the back door. And the same goes kind of with a career too. If you start as a ballet dancer and then maybe you shift to more a contemporary dancer or a commercial hip hop dancer or whatever, it's better to go the ballet route first. So I went to a school for creative and performing arts then in Cincinnati, Ohio, public school, which I'm always very proud to say that this school really inspired me, and it still exists today in Ohio. And I owe it a lot for exposing me to musical theater, and I learned piano there, and I sang in the choir. We recorded CDs with the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra, performed at outdoor venues. Like, it was just this plethora of performing experiences that really got me excited about being a performer. And maybe that spoke to some sort of egotistical kid thing where you're like, oh yeah, I want to be the star all the time, and your parents say you're not the center of attention all the time, but on stage you can kind of be that. But I think it also fulfilled something in me too, that I played sports, soccer and baseball too, but something about, I had to choose between the two, so something about the arts really spoke to me, that it was an expression and there was always more to learn about it also. So I think there was that attraction for me there. So I ended up going to a bunch of summer programs, which is what you do when you're a serious ballet student. You start to explore options during the summer. You go to either Houston Ballet or Pittsburgh Ballet Theater or New York City Ballet School, American Ballet, or Grand Rapids Ballet Summer Program, for instance. So I went to a lot of these summer programs and eventually realized that I needed to up my game. Basically, I was looking at the level of students at these summer programs, and I needed to figure out if I could match that. So I started looking at some boarding schools, actually, and so we can go to the next slide. Oh, you did, thank you. So this is the Herod Conservatory in Boca Raton, Florida. So my parents were really nice and said, yeah, go for it. And now thinking back, and I've got kids, like, would I let my kid do this? But yeah, I probably would now. It was the best thing for me. I loved it. I missed my parents, but honestly, I didn't really miss home that much because I was having such a great time. I got to do everything I wanted to do, which was learn a really strong foundation of classical ballet. So that's a piece called Corsair, and there's our graduating class of, how many people is that? 10 people, so wow. Very small. It was a great organization, the Herod Conservatory. Everything was free. If you got accepted into the school, full scholarship. So it was a beautiful place to go, and from there I auditioned for some ballet companies as well as some schools. Ballet dancers tend to think that they need to get a job right out of high school because of what we just talked about. The time that you have to dance is small. And if you're not good by 17, then you're not going to make it. But that is slowly changing, and I was glad that I did audition for some universities as well, and I was accepted to the Juilliard School. So we can skip to the next slide then. So this is, these are some pictures of me dancing at the Juilliard School. So this is right at Lincoln Center in New York City, and this was really a formative time for me. I was able to not only continue the classical ballet training that I had received from the Heritage Conservatory, but also to broaden my horizons about what dance is, about modern dance techniques. So I studied the techniques straight from some of these choreographers themselves and their disciples, basically. Martha Graham, Paul Taylor, Jose Limon, these pioneers of American modern dance, that their presence in New York was so strong and really opened me to understand what modern dance was. It wasn't just people in no shoes, like flopping around on the stage. There was an actual technique to it. There was a lot of expression, and in some ways more expression than in classical ballet. I remember seeing this piece called Concerto 622 by the Lar Lubavitch Dance Company. A student rush ticket, front row, City Center, and to classical music, the most beautiful clarinet concerto, two men partnering barefoot, unusual choreography, but it was the most moving experience I'd ever had with a contemporary, with a modern piece. So that was really eye-opening, and not just my training at the school every day, it was the performances I saw every night. I remember from my dorm room I could look down and see when intermission was at American Ballet Theater, at the Met, or New York City Ballet at the New York State Theater. It's not called the State Theater anymore, but it's the Koch Theater. But it was the New York State Theater back then, and it was intermission. Me and my friends, we'd run down and ask people who were leaving, maybe they were leaving early for whatever reason, oh, can we have your ticket? And, yeah, please, please. So we'd sneak into as many shows as we could that way. And that was just as educational as the training I was getting during the day. And how they combined is really how I formed my ideas about art and the artist that I wanted to be. So did I want to be a classical dancer? Did I want to be a contemporary dancer? There's all these kind of ideas floating on my head. The Juilliard School was a little bit more modern, traditionally, a little more modern heavy traditionally, but they had some really amazing classical ballet teachers there as well. So I really wanted to kind of be that guy that had both. So I really tried hard to get into American Ballet Theater or San Francisco Ballet. And here I was offered a job at San Francisco Ballet. So I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so, and this is where I've spent the majority of my life now. 18 years I spent in San Francisco Ballet. And it was really a dream job. There was so much I got to do, so much amazing repertoire. The people that I got to work with, the best of the best in the world, the best choreographers. We had a beautiful theater to dance in. I toured the world. It was really a magical place and a special place for me. Ironically, San Francisco Ballet is a very classical company, so I came from Juilliard, where I was kind of a classical boy because everyone else was a little more modern based. And then I went to San Francisco Ballet, where everyone's classical, and they were like, oh, there's Jim, he's the modern boy from Juilliard. So it's like, what's my label? I don't know. I was so confusing to people. But in a way, I kind of treaded that line. I was able to do both. And versatility is a huge thing in the dance world right now. The blending of modern ballet in the 60s, 70s, it used to be like a very definitive line. Modern dancers would never go take ballet class and vice versa. But now, choreographers like Mark Morris and Twyla Tharp were given commissions at these large ballet companies, because that's how you evolve the art form. You're not going to only do the same Tombe, Pagore, Glissade, Pas de Chat for years and years and years. You have to invent new steps. And how do you use classical ballet technique to invent those new steps? So that's what is really exciting to me, and it's exciting to a lot of choreographers working today. So The dancer of today has to be a nice, true hybrid, a nice, true blend of classical and contemporary. So I felt like I was able to fill that niche at San Francisco Ballet. And let's see, what else do I want to say about that? Just that, yeah, it was the best place for me at that time. I thought about leaving. Do I really want to spend my whole career dancing in one place the whole time? But in the end, it really was the best place. It gave me a lot. I actually did take a leave of absence for 1 year, and I did a Broadway show, Twilight Arts Broadway show, Moving Out, music by Billy Joel, and my director, Helgi Thompson, in the center there, he was very gracious and let me do that. And he was like, "Oh, how'd you like that?" When I came back. And because in a Broadway show, you're doing the same show over and over and over. Never changes. So you really have to dig deep in yourself and find that inspiration every night. Thankfully, the show was amazing, Moving Out, and the band playing Billy Joel music was rocking every night. And I didn't have much trouble, but I also had like an end date. I always knew I was going back to San Francisco Ballet, where we are a repertory company, and that's what most classical ballet companies are, where you do a different season every year. Every year is a different set of ballets, and that keeps the dancers engaged. It keeps you excited. I mean, I've heard of people who are on Broadway in Cats for 15, 16 years, and how do you do that? I don't even know. You do it because it's a job, I guess, by the end, you find inspiration in it, but like that's not for me, it's not for everyone. But I had a great experience doing Moving Out, not that I want to do that for 15 years though, so it was nice that I had that moment. So while I was a dancer at San Francisco Ballet, I guess not the light at the end of the tunnel, but the cliff at the end of the railroad tracks is getting closer and closer. What am I going to do when I'm done dancing, right? So I started thinking this way, started trying to be open to ideas that were percolating in my head and talking with people. So I had a friend who was in my dressing room, and we were talking about, we have this big break in the summer, we want to dance, we can't dance forever, and then we've got this big break in the summer, let's dance some more, let's just do what we can. We talked about doing a summer show, a summer twin show. He ended up meeting, his name was Garen, he ended up meeting the CEO of this organization called the Cancer Prevention Institute of California. And she was a ballet main, and she came to all the performances, and she said, well, maybe we can partner somehow. And then Garen and I started brainstorming, maybe let's do a show, maybe we could perform, maybe we could do a fundraiser for this charity for the Cancer Prevention Institute. They're a science-based research institute. And the ball rolled very fast. This was maybe, December, and we ended up putting on our first benefit performance for the Cancer Prevention Institute that June. So we called up all our friends in the Bay Area, and did you go to the next slide? Here maybe. Yeah, so it was called Get in Front of Cancer was the original name. It's since changed to Dance for a reason. But we raised it over 5 years, so we've done this performance for 5 years now. We've raised over $450,000 for cancer research. So we included dance companies all over the spectrum in the Bay Area, including like a hip hop dance crew. You can even see somebody in a wheelchair there. There's a dance company called Axis Dance that has performers with abilities and disabilities of all sorts. So the idea that anyone can dance, basically, and be a performer and a professional performer at that. And so we had modern companies, we had ballet companies, we had everything in between, experimental and theatrical, and we actually had to turn down people, otherwise the show was going to be like 4 hours long. So in our first year, Garen and I what did we do? Oh my goodness. So, but it became something really exciting, and it became something that really ignited my passion. Cancer prevention was something that spoke to me deeply personally, and it was a way for me as a dancer, as an artist, to give back. And how do I do that as a dancer? Am I dancing up here for my own benefit? People pay money and they come see me, and that enriches people's lives, you hope, but sometimes you wish for a more tangible way, and this was something that we could we could do. And so it became this huge success, and yeah, we didn't do it last year. Garen has since moved to New York. I've moved to Grand Rapids. But I was just recently approached by somebody in San Francisco Valley who wants to kind of take over the reins and continue this process. So for me, that was really heartening to hear that somebody else is inspired to do this. And another dancer is thinking bigger than just their own bubble of performing on this stage, and how do we, as dancers and as artists, get out there more. So I'm very proud of Dance for a Reason. So it was Get in Front, and then it changed to Dance for a Reason, but it's the same organization, basically. I also began thinking about choreography. I'd always loved choreography, but hadn't had a lot of opportunities to try it. At San Francisco Ballet, you are dancing well, not 24 hours, but all the time. And there's not a lot of time in between to do a lot of extra stuff. So whenever an opportunity would present itself in the summer, I would always jump on it. I was able to convince the school director at San Francisco Ballet School that I should try my hand at choreography on the students. So that was a piece that I was inspired by the music and the stories of the Arab Spring, actually. So that was a piece by, the music's by a man named Anouar Brahim from Tunisia. And he made this piece in like the 2 years after the revolution in Tunisia. It was kind of the beginning of the Arab Spring. And it inspired me to start thinking about like, how can I use events around our world, and how do I take the world that's around me and put that into what I do as an artist, as a creative person. And that was really a moment for me where I was like, wow, this is cool. It really gave me a jumping off point, not just like, okay, go make a dance and see what happens. Like you can do that too, and sometimes good things happen too, but it's nice to have a jumping off point. And it's nice to have, I think, when art speaks to something that is present in our world currently. So, I mean, those were students, those are 15, 16-year-olds, and for them too, it was kind of a moment like, oh, it's not just about me and how many pirouettes I can do, it's about this piece and what's this choreographer trying to say. So, and then for me to be the teacher who's imparting that to them, it was just another eye-opening experience. Like, wow, I'm kind of enjoying this moment where I'm helping lift up these young people and understanding what it is, this art form that we do. Maybe you were put into it as a kid at 5 by your parents, and you don't really know why you do it or what's so great about it necessarily. You might love it, but you don't know the full potential of what it can be. And so if I was able to help them in their path and their journey to understanding what dance and ballet is, I mean, that was really inspiring to me. So choreography became another kind of interest of mine, and Dance for a Reason, and then also my like another third prong of my extracurricular activities, because in the meantime I'm still doing my day job of dancing at San Francisco Valley. I began a contemporary dance company called SF Danceworks. So that's some of these pictures. So like we were featured in the Chronicle, like birth of a dance company, and I noticed that in San Francisco there was not a true contemporary repertory company. There were a lot of companies that we have that are run by choreographers, so Alonzo King or Brenda Way or Robert Moses. These companies are mainly vehicles for these choreographers to keep creating work, which is great and wonderful too. But I'm a choreographer, but I didn't really feel like that was what my ultimate goal is, to be this choreographer that has a company and I do only my pieces there. But I love the idea of showing variety and showing pieces from before, pieces from now. So it's a nice kind of blend for the evening in a piece, in an evening work or setting, that it's not just one person's vision. There's a lot of, like when you go to an art gallery, right? You see one wall, one artist, and the next wall, another artist. And you compare and you contrast, and you end up discovering what it is about yourself and your own ideas and aesthetics that you like. So SF Danceworks, we had a fundraiser just to kind of see if people would like it, and I raised almost half my budget for the first year in one night. So Cindy and I were like, okay, I guess we're gonna do this now. And adding another thing to our plate. Meanwhile, like we had our first child. So it was just, it was a crazy time. And in a way, well, I guess I should say that we sold out our first season. I've had 3 seasons so far. Our 4th season is coming up in June in San Francisco. So it is continuing. I've got colleagues there in San Francisco who are helping me do this from afar. But all in all, this was too much for me to maintain all at once, and that cliff at the end of the train tracks is getting ever and ever closer. And Grand Rapids Ballet needed an artistic director, so that's how this all happened. And I'm very glad to be here, and I think that this is a good place for me to kind of gather all those things that I've done and put them all under one roof here, where I can be an organizer and a producer and a director and a teacher and a fundraiser. So I guess they agreed. So it is a restart, because I'm not dancing anymore, and that is something that people tell me, oh, you're gonna miss it, you're gonna miss it, and I do miss it, and I'm still pretty freshly retired. I'm fresh to this job, and yeah, I know I will miss the stage and performing, and in a way it's sad, but I've got so much else to look forward to, and really paying it forward is what I'm thinking about a lot right now. And how do I evolve all those experiences that I had that were wonderful to me personally? How do I give that to the world now? How do I give that to the community of Grand Rapids? So that's my focus now, and that's taking a lot of my my energy, and it's really fulfilling. It is, and I will always have that part of me that says, yes, dancing was one of the best. Like I said in the video, it was the best career, and now this is the second best. So I'll always have that really high, but it's just as good, it really is, and I'm really happy to be here. So I guess I always kept myself open to possibilities. When my friend Garen approached me about Dance for a Reason, I didn't default to being like, oh no, I can't do that. It's like, yes, let's try and make that work. How did I stay open to choreographing, to not getting shut down when people would tell me no right away? Moving out, the Broadway show I did, I auditioned 4 times for that show. And that's not really that many. I've heard of stories of more people auditioning like 10, 12 times for other shows. But not being discouraged, I think, was a big thing for me too, and keeping an optimistic attitude, and just staying open to what can come, because you don't know how that's going to aid you down the road when you have to restart. I knew that it was always looming, so I didn't know how it was all going to work. And I still don't really know how it's all going to work. It's all a big experiment. You know, we packed up an RV and drove here from San Francisco with our 2 kids and our cat, and it's an adventure. It really is. So this is just a continuation of this adventure. And I think if you keep that drive to explore and try new things, then I think the world just opens to you. So it has for me, at least. So I guess that might be the end. We have one more video. Oh, this is Grand Rapids Ballet. So this is the first program we just performed called Wild Sweet Love. So this is me here working with some of the dancers in the studio choreographing. Like I said, a repertory company where we do classical ballet, more traditional Balanchine work. We do contemporary work. Here, Penny Saunders Ghostlight, who's the resident choreographer. This is a piece called Wild Sweet Love by Trey McIntyre that had music by Queen, the Partridge Family, Lou Reed. So really eclectic variety of what ballet can be. So that's what I'm hoping to bring here to Grand Rapids. That it's not only, like I said in the video again, like tutus and tiaras. It is all that too, and we will be doing the classics as well. But how do I bring more to it than that, so that people like yourselves are feeling like it relates to you and your life now, to me, and not just the courts of France in the 18th century.
Thank you so much. I know that some of you have meetings and day jobs to get to, and then some of you have some questions that you want to ask. So if you need to go, feel free to go. We're going to have time for 2 questions. If there are questions at the ready, this is your opportunity. Otherwise, I'll start out. Yes?
I wrote it down, sorry. What is the language that is used to educate in dance?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I was saying before, there is a notation system that you can write down on paper. He asked, how is the language of dance transferred? But yeah, it is verbally. That's the main way, and just by watching your teacher do it, so you imitate, and then the teacher walks around and shows you, okay, you need to shape your foot a little bit more here, and with tactile cues as well. But yeah, paper is not really the way. You can go to the library and get a book out, and there's people who draw diagrams, and they do the best they can, but it's really not a substitute.
I have a hard time restarting due to a love for innovation and change. And for me, sometimes it's hard for me to just understand vocals, vocals being just as purely the thing that is keeping me rooted in something. How has dance not get lost in translation? How is there still Swan Lake being still formed?
Yeah, how is it passed down? I mean, how is Swan Lake still performed? Yeah, well, video has become a big deal for us, for sure. I mean, even the 60s, we have grainy footage of Balanchine works, and you're like, what foot are they on? It's blurry. Now we've got HD quality video. You can zoom in and see what exactly they're doing. But again, that's like learning a Mozart symphony from a recording of a Mozart symphony, not from the score. That's just that dancer who on that video's interpretation of that particular step. And you're not hearing the choreographer say what it was that he or she wanted to do. You're not hearing the intention behind the movement. That has to be passed down verbally. So you have to be an imitator as a dancer. You have to be a listener. You have to, but also you want to be yourself too. You don't want to just try to do everything that is told to you exactly structure by structure, because one person will tell you one thing and somebody else will tell you something different. So you have to take all those things together and form your own idea of how I wanted to present this character, for instance, in Swan Lake. And so Swan Lake today probably does not look much like Swan Lake did when it was premiered. But it's still Swan Lake, and that's kind of the beauty of it. One more over there?
So you gave a lot of examples of times when you attempted to restart and it went well. Have you ever had a time in your life where you tried something or tried to start something and it didn't go well, and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, well, I always did want to choreograph, and I did a little bit of it in high school at the Herod Conservatory, and then at the Juilliard School we have a course called composition, and then at San Francisco Ballet, there's no program like that. You're a professional dancer, and that's your job, and then you're stuck in that box. Unless Helgi or somebody chooses you to try something. So I had kind of knocked on the door a lot, and with not much response for a very long time. So I had to kind of just find other ways, other outlets of doing it in other gigs that I was offered, or oh, you need a solo for that? Like a fellow dancer, okay, I'll make you a solo. Why not? Let's just go have some fun in the studio. So I kind of had to work around that in a way, and then eventually I was offered an opportunity to choreograph on the school at San Francisco Ballet. So it did kind of play out eventually for me, but there is that initial no that I received, and also like when I was saying I auditioned for the Broadway show. I was like, oh yeah, everybody always told me, well, you'd be great on Broadway, you've got the right charisma and personality, etc., and like body build, and then I auditioned for the show, and I didn't get it. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to do that. But I kept knocking. I guess that's basically my story. Yeah, I would say just stay encouraged and find your own path. You don't have to do it the way that people say you have to do it necessarily all the time. There's different ways to restart. That makes sense?
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you, everyone.